everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Cinematropolis, and your host today, Caleb Masters, and I'm podcasting straight from deadCenter, and we have been giving you deadCenter content all week long following the festival, but I'm very excited to be joined by our entire Cinematropolis deadCenter team, who has been going to the festival, watching all the movies, writing essays, and I just thought it'd be awesome to bring us all together. Well, what was our favorite part? What did we like? And maybe talk about some of the films we saw that maybe you won't have that are on your radar already. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the table. Starting to my left, Mr. Bokemper. Sir, introduce yourself.
Howdy, I'm Daniel Bokemper, of course, with the Cinematropolis, also contributor to World Literature Today and the Oklahoma Gazette.
Hey there, I'm Alexandra Bohannon, frequent podcaster on the Cinematic Schematic with our monthly program Soundtrack and then various and sundry other media outlets. Of course, I have written for the Cinematropolis, Good Trash Media, and lots of other places on the internet.
Sir?
Hi, this is Christopher Shultz. I write for the Cinematropolis, for litreactor.com, as well as various other venues for fiction writing.
And I'm Kevin Tudor. I'm a writer at Cinematropolis, a regular writer at Daily Grindhouse, and just a regular freelancer.
All right. Well, hey, guys, thanks so much for joining the show today. So let's get some impressions of the festival so far. Have you guys all had a lot of fun?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? See.
He's so muted. I just want him to, emote his enjoyment of the festival. I mean, if you want, or whatever.
No, I've had a great time. Absolutely, it's this is my first time at deadCenter. Yeah, so it's been great. Yeah, a lot of really great films so far, and despite the heat, it's been an awesome time.
Oh yes, it's not deadCenter if you're not standing in the sun in 95-degree weather at least once. All right. Well, so favorite part of the festival. Start with you, Kevin. Throw it to you, man. What have you enjoyed the most?
World premiere of You People. That will be the one that I remember the most, and definitely seeing LeBron win his Best Oklahoma Feature was the best about that as well. And it was just packed house. It was really fun.
I was going to say the films, especially some of the documentaries and hybridized documentaries I caught, but while we were waiting outside, we saw a caravan of 5 dads on Segways.
It's true. We did witness the Segways.
The Segway. So I'm pretty sure that takes the cake.
So I had a couple of pieces that I worked on in the festival, so definitely seeing, You People and Homecoming Trilogy on the big screen after the lots of love and labor upon it.
Manners. You actually worked on films in this festival. Manners.
Aye, Captain, I did. So seeing that on the big screen, really gratifying, both of those pieces, and of course seeing our VR film as well, Seduction. So that was really great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
The 2 shorts collections that I've seen so far have been particularly excellent, and we'll probably go into more detail on that later. But I also would like to mention the people in like Pikachu and Scooby-Doo costumes who've been sort of stalking around Harkins Theater this entire time.
They won't go away.
They will not.
No.
Is there a reason? Why is there Pokemon?
Hey, E3 is
Money.
this week. E3 is this week, but also because that actually E3 is a joke. They're down here all the time. They do this randomly all the time.
Yeah, big events. I'm sure they're up here for like Red Hawks. Oh, sorry, Dodgers games. Man, I feel old.
Hey,
Whoa!
They will ask for like tips and stuff, and they're apparently fairly antagonistic. If you don't give them
tips, they're like those people. Have you guys ever been?
It's like New York City, like straight up Times Square.
Yeah, Times Square or Hollywood Boulevard when they're in the costumes. I totally did that one time. First time to Hollywood Boulevard, had no clue. I'm like, oh, these people are in costumes. I guess they're getting paid to do this, right? So I went and got a picture. Darth Vader on his giant elevator shoes puts his hand out, and I'm like, I don't have any cash, and he's
supposed to do that.
And then he did that, and then like gave me a dirty head nod. So so cool. So it sounds like we've all had some good various the Pikachu costumes, seeing films your own films on the big screen, some shorts. This is very cool, and seeing our friends premiere films. All things I enjoyed about deadCenter. You People was a big one for me too. Anyone who's been listening to the show or following me online, even back in the Good Trash days, knows that. Me and Laurent are good friends. He's been making this movie the entire time I have known him. He was in pre-production. He was fundraising when I first met him and had him on my podcast. We did a La La Land review a couple of years back. And ever since then, I've been getting these little updates here and there about how it was coming along. So it was really great to see a guy who's worked so hard and has a really powerful story to tell to make the movie he wanted to make. Got it on the big screen. It was very well received. So I think that was really, really great to see him lifted up in that way, and he deserves it. But let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about the films. I think we all caught some shorts, some features, maybe, and some documentaries, I think, by and large. Let's start with features, though. Did you guys have any particular favorites, Daniel?
Yeah, so, well, at first, I'm like I think many of us here, an A24 fanboy, so I initially went into Woman Walks Ahead just expecting it to blow me away, and unfortunately didn't. Fortunately, however, the following morning, I caught Thy Kingdom Come, which is, it's kind of it technically is a narrative feature, I believe, but it's also in part a documentary, and it was made with leftover footage from To the Wonder. It's by a film by Eugene and Janine Richards, and it's really just kind of a candid examination of residents of Bartlesville, Oklahoma, specifically those impoverished, while they just spill out their hearts to Javier Bardem. And so what was originally supposed to be about a 1.5-minute vignette turned into this about 50-minute just wonderful conversation about both something that's, for the most part, grotesque, but also just beautiful. And just it lets you, kind of reminds us of how, sometimes maybe clinically a studio might expect just to have these natural moments just to be used out of convenience, whereas within that process you find just this incredible examination of real people.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good point. And for listeners out there who might not be familiar with To the Wonder, that is a Terrence Malick film from several years ago that was actually shot here in Oklahoma in Bartlesville. And the documentary itself was that, my understanding was it was footage they didn't use in the film, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. So Eugene and Janine, they were basically handed a red camera and said, like, make something. And then they drove around Javier Bardem for a limited amount of time while it was basically him getting into his character as a priest. And they, it's bizarre because the film came out like 8 years ago. They did all of their work for it, and the studio, I can't recall which, held on to that footage. Ultimately, they relinquished it, but they didn't give the Richards authorization to produce a film out of it until 2 weeks before the festival itself. They weren't even sure if they were going to be able to ultimately show this, apparently, and fortunately they did get clearance, very timely clearance, but clearance nonetheless, to produce something that, in all honesty, I thought was a little bit more valuable than To the Wonder itself.
High praise, my dude.
That is high praise. And, To the Wonder, it's a Terrence Malick film in the truest sense, and there are things that are brilliant about it, and there are things that are frustrating, as always. All right, well, Alexandra, how about you?
Speaking of our features, I unfortunately wasn't able to catch everything because I was really trying to prioritize getting in those lines, because that's one thing about being in a film festival that's grown so much is definitely it's got more of like your South by Austin Film Fest is like, some of these lines are like hour.
It's not a film
30.
festival if you're not waiting for at least an hour at somewhere.
Right. So one of the lines I prioritized was Jurassic Games, screening for one night only in Harkins Theater, and to, of course, a sold-out packed house. Wow. I wasn't really... I definitely had, and we had a conversation, Caleb and I, with one of the stars, Adam Hampton, and then Caleb has had his own conversations with the director, Ryan Belgart. And
also the other Ryan Merriman, the Ryans.
Oh my God, it's three Ryans, the three horsemen.
I missed I missed the chance to make that joke on the podcast, so I'm making it right now.
Okay.
The dynamic Ryan duo.
Redeemed yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I went into this movie kind of expecting more of like, remember after a Scary Movie came out, they like stopped making like Scary Movie franchises, and they like just made all those like Epic Movie and like all those kind of weird like not
Scary
definitely
Movie 4.
Yeah. Like they're like just rips. They're not horror movie rips,
Epic
but just
movie,
popular
date movie, disaster movie.
Yeah, it's like all the the genre tropey crap, and then like just homages. I was kind of expecting something more in that line, but what I got instead was actually sometimes campy, but a thoughtful discussion about the natures of capital punishment. I mean, as much as you can with a film that's about dinosaurs and your head exploding. But yeah, so like I was actually kind of surprised that I got more of a more nuanced conversation from a film called Jurassic Games than I anticipated.
Yeah, no, Alex, I think that's a great point. I had, I was so the thing about this movie was the trailer for it came out the same day as one of the Jurassic World trailers. Again, very clever marketing on their point. And
strats.
I remember saying, I was like, you know what? I'm actually more excited about the Jurassic games than I am Jurassic World sequel. And you know what? I wasn't disappointed. I think I really like Jurassic games more than I like Jurassic World, because it's not aggressively stupid. The premise sounds silly and over the top, and the movie does, I think, embrace that at points.
Yes.
But underneath it all, there's actually some really ambitious ideas, talking about capital punishment, talking about
the nature of celebrity culture and reality television.
Yes, exactly. And America's obsession with watching violence to real people. Like, these are all things that the movie, in one way or another, has a conversation about. And I'm like, other films like Jurassic World, like, they don't just throw those ideas in there that don't go back to it. It does, a lot of those do resolve in some manner. I'm like, okay, cool. There was a lot more to it than you would expect from watching the trailer. Sure.
And then the ending, which I really appreciated, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it basically, I think the ending of the film is extremely realistic, as if we were put in this situation today, like what would happen at the outset of like having such a violent program like the Jurassic Games on television.
Oh, no, totally. Sequels, baby. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, man, gotta get those dinosaurs with hand grenades somehow. So anyway, so Jurassic Games, definitely would recommend. As we discussed on our conversation with Adam Hampton, you can watch it everywhere, June 12th on streaming services across the country, and then, of course, big release, July 3rd, physical copies, Redbox, Walmart, things like that. So just wanted to get that plug and chug in there.
And guys, watch it. Seriously. I'm not even joking. I had a great time with it. Yeah.
And it keeps it tight, too. You can, like...
I didn't get bored.
You didn't get bored, and then there's not a lot of bloat there, so you're just like, you're here for the dinosaurs. They know that, and, like, let's go. Speaking
with you, Alex, we're at the sidebar. We're going to figure out who did the score for that movie, because I liked it a lot. It reminded me of a Donkey Kong Country game, but in a good way.
That definitely needs another watch for me to, like, really pick up on it.
I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was like, it's an electronic thing, but it's got, like, melodic, and it's got an atmosphere to it that reminds me of those Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, not the Donkey Kong rap. I got my...
No, not the Donkey Kong rap. The
right.
Score, not the
yeah, absolutely.
Christopher, feature film.
Well, the feature that I'm still reeling from was last night's screening of Puppet Master: The Littlest Reich, which Caleb also saw. He saw it twice.
I saw it twice.
He's ahead of me on that one. But
I don't think I can. I don't think my brain could process it a third time in a row at least.
Oh man, I mean this. If you're familiar with the Puppet Master series of films, they're a little hokey. They're great. They're fun, but they're about little puppets killing people. This movie surprised me so much because it took that concept and made it something that, while not necessarily scary in the sense that we're scared of these puppets coming after us, but really disturbing, and very much, I think, steeped in some social commentary about the current state of hate concerning Nazis rising up.
Right, because these are Nazi puppets. We should go ahead and throw that out there. Yeah.
Right. If the Littlest Reich was not an indicator, these are Nazi puppets now, designed by a Nazi sympathizer. And some of just the most extreme violence I have seen in a movie in a while. And there's a particular scene that I will not spoil, but... my God.
Yeah, it's you think, I feel like both of us are pretty seasoned with horror films.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we feel like you've seen it all, but there's at least one thing, at least in this movie, I flabbergasted.
Yeah.
And I was laughing because of how, you're laughing because of how uncomfortable it is, but it's like, who came up with this idea? How did their minds are so twisted? Yeah. Oh, we should probably throw out there the writer of this film, S. Craig Zoller, who wrote Bone Tomahawk and was it Battle on Cell Block 99?
Right. Yeah.
And so you know how those films are ridiculously gory? Mm-hmm. Well, crank that up a lot.
Yeah.
And you have the Littlest Reich.
We had the effects master there, the effects team lead, Tate, I don't remember his last name, but he spoke a lot about the creation of those effects, and that was really entertaining aspect of not just the screening itself, the film itself, but having that panel afterwards to kind of talk about it. But yeah, this is one of the first times in a really long while that I sat through a horror film and just went, oh, damn,
And you don't know how you feel about it in the moment. You're like, what? Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. The fun part for me on that one was watching it the second time because it was so horrifying, but I had a very visceral reaction the first time I watched it where I like reacted very strong. Like I actually audibly shouted like, oh shit, like really loud in the theater because I was, and I moved in my chair. I was like squirming. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And the second time the fun was like knowing when that was coming and seeing how the audience was going to react. I was like, are they going to go for it? And I mean, they went for it. Everyone had the same like crazy reaction. You know, it's like one of those scenes in a movie where you see an audience reaction from a horror movie. Everyone goes, oh, you know, it was it had all that full blown.
I was sitting next to you, and that scene, the scene we were just talking about in particular, I did, I think, hear an audible sort of from you. It was like, oh, okay, something's coming.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny too because like, there were people like next to us who were whispering stuff, and I was like, oh, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Oh yeah, they were in for it for sure.
Yeah. Kevin, how about you?
Narrative feature?
Yeah, narrative feature.
Well, I did only see one, and I'm not going to recommend it. So I could go into documentaries because I saw a few documentaries. But yeah, the only narrative feature I saw was Accommodations.
And it was a little bit of a letdown?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more. Give me the idea. Tell me a little bit more about Accommodations.
Okay, so it's about pretty much a high-class New York couple that I guess they're just tired of keeping up with the Joneses or whatnot, or at least the wife is, and she just says that she's not going to be involved in it anymore. And then subsequently after that, her husband like quits his CEO job, and then they start Airbnb their apartment. And after that, there's really just no plot to it. It's just more zaniness that I did not connect with.
So the characters were hard to connect with, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Accommodations not recommended from Kevin. Fair point. You know,
No.
Not every film at a film festival is a home run. That'll do it for narrative feature. Now, Christopher, one thing that you get to do that I was very jealous of, you get to see 2 shorts blocks that, especially after reading your review on the Cinematropolis.com, I was like, dude, I've got to catch this. The After Dark shorts and the Femme Fatale shorts. Can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah, absolutely. The After Dark shorts was not porno, as it was pointed out by the host of the screening that I went to, but just the shorts that are a little more experimental. I guess they were a lot weirder, and there were some really solid short films. In fact, really altogether of the 7 films, there really wasn't a bad one. But the 3, I guess, that really stood out to me was the first, which the first short film, which was Mammon. Which is about a mecha Trump.
I saw that the picture you used on that logo. I was like, oh man, I got to see this. Yeah. Mecha Trump. And I won't say much more about it other than that. Just kind of
like Mecha Hitler from Wolfenstein.
Yeah, but Trump.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Or Mecha Godzilla.
Barbra Streisand.
Mecha Barbra Streisand. Yeah, absolutely. And then there were 2 others in the After Dark shorts, which was I could go on about all of them, but the 2 other real standouts were Winston, which was an animated short film, which in my review I wrote that it was like a cross between Edgar Allan Poe and Darren Aronofsky. Good combination, really, really, really quality horror film about paranoia and the wilderness sort of driving you mad, I guess. And I won't say much more about it. And then finally, Lunch Ladies, which was just hysterical. It dealt with a pair of lunch ladies who are obsessed with Johnny Depp, who are trying to
so real lunch ladies,
Yeah, it was very true to life. They're trying to get out to LA so they can work as Johnny Depp's personal chefs. But they have a few roadblocks, and things go into some rather crazy territory for them before the short is over. And then the Femme Fatale shorts again is more just a clever name. It's female directors who are absolutely killing it, and the highlights there. But Hairwolf was one in particular that I really enjoyed.
I read that you in your piece you called it like Get Out, but if it was a comedy, like a real comedy,
right? If Get Out was in fact a comedy, it would be Hairwolf. It kind of deals with white ladies appropriating black female style, especially where their hair is concerned. Really kind of played for laughs, but really a biting satire. Gosh, there were several more. Again, this was similar with the After Darks collection. There really wasn't a bad film among these. And then, now that I'm pressed to talk about it, I can't think of another one that stood out.
Right. Well, there's a lot of great shorts, and that's the thing about these short films too. They get like noticeably better every year. This is my fourth deadCenter, and every year I'm like, hey, these are getting better. Like this year, I feel like that was some A+ material you're talking about. I want to see. I'm going to find a way to watch all of them. Daniel, we'll throw it to you. What were some of your favorite short films?
Yeah, so I really only caught the Okie mediums with you. Regardless, though, those did stand out. The first of those was the Grave, directed by Kyle Roberts, about a Prohibition era superhero in Oklahoma City. Fighting crime. I think it's an adaptation of an Oklahoma-made comic, is it not?
By Matthew Price, yeah.
By Matthew Price, yeah. Really interesting. One of the things that stood out to me with it was there's an actor I keep seeing. I believe his name is Stephen Goodman. And
wait, Stephen who? He's a deadCenter staple, my man.
I know.
Friend of the Cinematropolis, Planet Thunder Productions.
Yeah, yes.
Everybody.
Me and Steven go back. X-Men Apocalypse Review. and
Yoga hosers.
Oh, Yoga Hosers. That's right. We did that one together
there,
too. Yeah.
I thought I recognized him from somewhere. Regardless, he is so good at looking pissed off about everything, and I love it. Like, he's so good at channeling anger. But he really stood out, so I was happy to see him. But just the film in general, it's kind of cool to see that Oklahoma can be a ground for any genre, even in the superhero genre. So it definitely had strokes of the Green Hornet, I guess, is probably the most appropriate tether I could make.
Yeah, and someone, I think that just my initial impressions, it had a lot of like that kind of Sin City overtone.
That was the vibe. I actually did an earlier interview with the director, Kyle Roberts, and he actually said they were because I threw out the Sin City aesthetic too, and he actually said that. And I mentioned that one too. He said they were more inspired by something. He gave a specific. I think the Green Hornet was one of them, though. He said because this is not as. I mean, it looks Sin City-esque, especially in the trailers and stuff, but actually most of it's real to life. He said that was something a little grittier, real to world. It's not like a movie. It's not like the whole thing was shot on a green screen like Sin City, but it does have vibes of that dark noir aesthetic for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely recommend checking out that if you're listening to the podcast, check out that interview with Kyle Roberts because he does go a little more in depth about their inspirations. He schooled me because I thought my initial reaction was, okay, so they're creating a fictional underground in the 1920s for a reason for there to be an underground crime syndicate here, and he's like, no. During the Prohibition era, when alcohol was illegal, this was actually like a big checkpoint. They moved illegal booze in and out all the time. I was like, whoa, okay, cool. So nice,
exciting and educational.
Yes.
Always a tip from.
In that same block, my favorite short, and I didn't actually get to see very many shorts this festival, but the one I really liked was Gray Matter.
Yeah.
That was really good. Now, that's the short film that is actually a documentary about incarceration of women in Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma, I mean, frequently, Oklahoma is the best at some of the worst things, and among them is female incarceration. We incarcerate twice as many women.
We're the number one in America, and this report actually just came out this last week. I think America is one of the top 3 or top 4 countries in the world, and Oklahoma is number 1 in America for incarceration. Yeah.
So cool, good on us, I guess.
But no, I liked the documentary because it went and really brought a lot of attention to these women who are incarcerated and made them human characters. I think a lot of times people forget that these are real people that we're putting in here.
More credit to director Megan Hickey. I don't know if she's done anything else, but very good at asking the question why, because one of the recurring inquiry she has in the film is what is it about Oklahoman women? They're not worse. They're not different in any way. But what she continues to identify is the prevalence of trauma, for whatever reason, in Oklahoma specifically. And while that's a difficult question to answer, especially in the short time film allows, or short film allows, about 25 minutes, I think was the running time of this. It still looks at that, and to Caleb's point, it humanizes people we often just assume are kind of the unwanted, the discarded.
Right.
Similar to a way Thy Kingdom Come does with the the impoverished residents of Bartlesville.
There was an entire short block that unfortunately I did not get to see. It was the Ally. There was a whole block of shorts dedicated to like allies, and it was all about bringing more attention to the marginalized groups of people. In fact, the shorts programmer Sunrise Tippeconnie, he said that it was probably his favorite block of shorts, and that you should. And I'll go ahead and make sure to link those in the show. Even though I don't think anybody here saw it, I'll make sure to link that in the show notes as well for you to check those out, because it does the same sort of thing where it's bringing attention to people we normally don't think about in a lot of these films that get released.
I've noticed that's a trend with deadCenter. It just seems very concerned with empowering, groups of people, groups who are disenfranchised, marginalized, and I think that's probably what keeps me so invested in this festival, is that its concern with, with what people would disregard in society, the unwanted. What people would disregard in society, the unwanted.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'll just throw it out there. I can't wait. It was super exciting to see LaRon Chapman get his film released, and it was well received. Having a person of color in there, I'm really excited to see when women. We have obviously had an entire block of shorts dedicated to women filmmakers. I'm really excited to see women step up to the plate for
feature for Okie features,
for an Okie
sure.
feature. Yeah. So, Alex, actually, how about you? What was your favorite short?
Well, I only got to see one shorts block, Okie shorts, not Okie mediums, just the regular flavor of shorts. And one reason is, it's their most popular block every year. So you basically, it's kind of like a ride to Disneyland. You really have to get in line for this block, like an hour 30 in advance. And so basically, I was there also to support my compadres, Brian Gilliland, who did The Office Case, the winner of OKC's 48. The first film accepted in deadCenter every year is the winner of the 48.
And it has a dragon.
And it has a dragon that was completely animated, rendered, and completed in 48 hours by one of my great friends, Matt Gardocki. Yeah. So that's, of course, so I had bros in. I had a film in Lance McDaniel's Homecoming trilogy, which I was the unit production manager on. We shot in Alva, which was definitely check that out whenever it becomes available. But outside the ones that are my bros and the one I worked on, some standouts for me, definitely Unlucky Day, directed by Ethan Norvell. Basically, it is it's a film. It's a student film, and I know we all have ideas in our head about what student films look and sound like, but it is one of the most professionally done student films I've ever seen in my life. You would not know that it has like that moniker of a student film, but it's going to say that we're growing great filmmakers in Oklahoma. These kids are just, crushed it. It's basically, it's a straight up noir, no camp, nothing. It is about a woman who gets mistakenly kidnapped and just the situation she's put into this interrogation, and it is straight up noir. Beautifully shot, amazing environments, just a fantastic standout. Of course, Brian Law's Rock, Paper, Scissors, that's a big standout this year and definitely worth a mention. I also like Domesticity, Oklahoma, which is directed by Nicole Emmons Williams, a female director. It's definitely more of kind of like an art piece type of film. It is a mix of mediums. It has live action, of course, and it has stop animation. Just like a lot of different mediums about how women kind of be incarcerated by these trappings of domesticity in the home, but in like a really very surreal way with mermaids at the end of it. It's really great. And then another one was As She Goes, another female filmmaker talking about just kind of like social anxiety, but done in like it was non-linearly edited, so it was really a clever way because you don't really know what it's about until it's over. And that's like it was really just powerful. There's so many standouts in our Okie shorts block this year. Again, talk about the quality just being every year it gets punched up another level, and I'm really proud to be having been on the stage with the rest of those filmmakers.
Well deserved. And did you get to check out the VR version of Homecoming Selection?
I did. So one of our things whenever we created the Homecoming trilogy with director Lance McDaniel and Planet Thunder was the fact that there was a VR component. So we shot the whole thing in VR, and we only released the third it's kind of weird. It's like a trilogy of 3 short films that all have the same through line. So only the third one screened at deadCenter this year, which was Seduction. Basically, it is a basically interpretive, a very passionate interpretive dance. I'll say it that way. It's a woman struggling with being kind of like triggered back into an old lifestyle by a flame who introduced her into drugs after she had gotten out of prison, and how she falls back into those really sad habits. It's not an extremely uplifting film, but it's beautifully shot and it's in VR. So not sure how one might see that VR film in the future, but definitely worth your time.
Keep your eyes peeled for that.
Yes.
It's great. The VR experience was. It's funny. I haven't seen the traditionally shot one, but I did see the VR experience. I saw Seduction in VR, but I haven't seen the traditionally shot, the whole trilogy.
Yeah.
And one thing, and I talk about this in another one of my interviews, is how cool the transitions looked. When you cut, like, when you do those fade ins and fade outs and the dancers moving around, it looked really cool in VR.
Yeah,
like it was probably the most thing that stood out to me most about the VR experience versus the traditional experience.
Yeah, and there are some just really beautiful locations. I mean, I was there in that really hot as fuck cornfield, and so it's just like at the end of it, and we're all just baking in this noonday August sun with no shade because it's a cornfield, and seeing that environment again, it's like I was here, but God, this was beautiful, and I get to be in air conditioning watching it.
Right.
So that's kind of just saw Oki shorts, and it was really a great experience. I'm sure all these filmmakers have. I mean, Lance, who's already very well established in his career, and this is a passion project, but like the up and comers, definitely people to look out for sure.
Very exciting. Kevin, how about you?
For shorts?
Yeah.
I saw no shorts.
Kevin has no shorts.
Nope.
0 shorts.
All right, well, Kevin, well, I'll throw this at you then. Favorite documentary?
I caught no docs, so.
Oh, dang.
Got no docs.
Well, opening night, first screening, I was able to catch the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders documentary. And it was real. I think it was almost a sold-out screening at the MOA, which a sold-out screening there is really tight. But it was huge crowd pleaser. Like, I've never heard so many people be able to audibly hear so many people cry during a movie. And I was just surprised that it actually got to that point during the documentary. But it was a very just like short 90-minute, very entertaining documentary. I had some problems with it afterwards, mostly when I was writing about it and I was going back on it. But I mean, it's a very just like crowd-pleasing documentary, and it's fun to watch something that you probably never really thought about that much and how they delve into that. And it was a cool time to open up the festival with.
Good way to kick it off. Didn't you say, if I read your piece right, they actually had some of the cheerleaders on the stage for Q&A afterwards?
Yeah, 2 of them, yeah.
That's super exciting.
Yeah, including the producer or one of the producers was there as well.
Oh, very cool. Daniel, how about you?
By far, it had to be Hal. I say by far because there's a lot of excellent documentaries consistently at deadCenter. I think that's one of the best showcases. But Hal, it's Amy Scott, who's an Oklahoma University alumnus. Her documentary, also the recipient of deadCenter's Special Jury Prize for a documentary feature, follows the life and work of Hal Ashby. It's really basically a film lover's documentary. It not only looks at the most prominent films he has in the 70s, such as Being There, The Last Detail, of course Harold and Maude, Landlords, or The Landlord, excuse me. It also looks into his cause, his rebellion against this, in the wake of Spielberg, essentially in these big, really when blockbusters were starting to kind of hit their stride, and check out the Cinematropolis.
The 80s killed Ashby.
They did.
Yeah.
And arguably some people suspect, I think maybe unjustly so, that a few other things killed Ashby, but among them was his loss of agency to the studio. His last film, which was probably his worst, 8 Million Ways to Die, starring Jeff Bridges, was not really his. It was basically taken from him, and 2 years later he dies.
During the 80s, New Hollywood in general just died, where the studio didn't want to mess with auteurs at all.
Well,
exactly.
And that's the film documents that really well, because basically they showed how he was up there with Scorsese Tracy and and Francis Ford Coppola. He was one of those guys. He came up with those same guys, but he wasn't able to adapt with the studio, and the studio was very demanding of him as well. And he felt like it was him working within the studio confines was compromising him as an artist. And in fact, his last film, that was a tragedy. He shot this film and the studio took it away from an editing room.
Well, they were under the impression that, the director doesn't really do much. They're a vehicle, they're a tool. Once the film is shot, so they thought that's when the director's influence ends, and it does not. Some may argue that maybe Ashby was a bit tired. I would be, especially given the frustration. And the film is really good. It has a lot of the film is built around the correspondence between him and Norman. I can't recall his colleague's name, but one of the sort of who he served as an apprentice for.
Right.
He was famous for In the Heat of the Night, was one of him's films, and The Russians Are Coming, And it really is telling how frustrated and angry he was, and he how ultimately it broke him down, unfortunately, and tragically.
And tragically, because at the end of the day, he sued the studio because they ruined his film, and then the sad thing is, because he lost. And then the film even makes a point to say, when you go up against a studio, you're going to lose.
Yeah, and for many years, people just assumed he was. I mean, especially in the industry, that he was just like a coke addict that lost himself to drug abuse, and really, it's far from the truth.
Yeah. Well, it's also worth noting that film. That's a great documentary. Included a huge number of interviewees. They had Jeff Bridges in there. They had
Jane Fonda,
Judd Apatow. They got some. She interviewed some A+ people.
Yeah,
and I liked in the Q&A in the film, following my viewing of the film, she talked about, hey, people love this guy so much. Normally these really high profile people were easy to get because they loved him so much, and no one ever asks about him.
Yeah,
that was really touching.
So ahead of his time too. One of the first people to even address white privilege.
Yeah,
in a film, to do that in the 70s, to be and to not. And he acknowledges his own privilege readily throughout a lot of his work. And I don't know, you don't really see that from any... You see it, but he was the only one who happened to have a studio behind him to where his films were actually visible and accessible.
Right. Right, we'll go ahead and throw to you, Christopher. Favorite documentary?
Well, I saw no feature-length documentaries. There was a short included in the Femme Fatale, circling back around to that one, because since I couldn't think of another one from that collection earlier. But it was called Mickey and Her Pets. And it's for one thing, if you're squeamish at all, there's some very graphic depictions of taxidermy happening, like how they do it. So if you ever catch this one, just know that's coming. But aside from that, it's actually this very sort of wholesome look at this girl who lives in Chicago, who is attempting to make stuff a peacock to go to this national taxidermy convention. And it's just like a sweet, nice little view into this woman's attempt to sort of enter into this male-dominated world of taxidermy. Very much this fish out of water. She's got tattoos. She's sort of young, alternative looking, I guess. And here are all these men in camo gear and polo shirts and everything. But she's very well received, and it seems to she gets a lot of compliments for her piece. And yeah, it was just it's one of those that really kind of sticks with you afterwards. There's nothing really immense happening in it, nothing very impactful or huge or anything, but it's just sort of this nice little story. So yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, guys, thanks so much for taking time to kind of unwind and talk a little bit about deadCenter. Thank you guys so much for all the contributions you made on the website, on the Cinematropolis.com. You guys have multiple reaction shots. Alexandra, thanks for two things. Thank you for making movies to play in the festival.
Well,
and thanks for hopping on the show at a moment's notice to talk about your deadCenter experience. It's
hey, yeah, totally.
Always great talking with all of you gents. Now, before we close out, I want to give you a chance to let everyone know where's the best place to find you online. Kevin, we'll start with you.
Twitter at KevTudor, KEVTUDOR.
All right, Christopher.
Really, the best place is to just go to my website, which is ChristopherShultz.com, and the last name is Shultz. No C in that.
Yeah, don't fudge it like I did. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Alexandra?
You can find me on Twitter at Alyx V Bohannon, Brohannon, and you can obviously follow my works on the Cinematropolis.com and everywhere else, I guess.
Everywhere else.
Yeah,
like
everywhere. Literally everywhere.
Daniel?
And Daniel Bokemper, you can find me at Twitter at Daniel_Bokemper. That's Bokemper. I don't even know if I spelled it right just now, so just keep guessing and you'll eventually hit it.
Yeah, okay. Bokemper. Gotcha. Got it. Oh, Googled it right there. See it? Is this it?
That's what you said. Okay.
No, I know I did. Yeah. I can spell my own name, fortunately.
Sorry.
I think.
All right. And of course, as always, you can find me on Twitter, tweeting about all the things at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk. You can follow the Cinematropolis at the Cinematrop on Twitter and Instagram, or on Facebook at facebook.com/the Cinematropolis. This has been your recap of our Dead Center 2018 coverage. Gentlemen, Alexandra, thank you all.
My gender identity is just Alexandra. Well,
thank you all so much for joining us today.
you bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.